The Bosphorus Doesn't Forget. A psychological romantic thriller. Istanbul. The body was found at 4:47 a.m. in the morning, face down in the Golden Horn, wearing my wife's perfume. That is how I knew she was still alive. Let me go back 3 days. Part 1. The Man Across the Water. My name is Carara Masslan. I am 41 years old. I run a private art consultancy out of a 4th-floor office in Bolu, where the window faces the Galata Tower and the pigeons never shut up. I move paintings between old money and new money, and I ask no questions about which is which. Istanbul rewards that kind of discretion. It also punishes it, eventually. But I didn't know that yet. I had been married to Daphne for 7 years. I say married the way you say breathing, something you stop noticing until it was gone. Daphne was not beautiful in the way that makes strangers stop on the street. She was beautiful in the way that made you feel stupid for not having noticed sooner. Dark eyes that went quiet before she made a decision. A mouth that smiled a half second after everyone else, like she was translating the joke from a private language. She had grown up in Karachi, when Karachi still smelled like fish and diesel, and she carried that in her, a kind of earned sharpness, a refusal to be impressed by things that hadn't earned it. We lived in a restored yali on the Asian side across the water. Old timber, new plumbing, a garden that smelled like jasmine 3 weeks a year and disappointment the rest. We had dinner together 4 nights a week. We went to the Kwai market on Saturday mornings. We loved each other. I believed that. I still believe that. But we loved each other the way you love a room you've stopped walking through. With memory, with distance. Then Lara Celine walked into my office on a Tuesday afternoon, and everything I thought I knew about my marriage, my city, and myself began to come apart at the seams. Part 2. The Woman with the Painting. She said she wanted to sell a Burhan Duanai. Original, mid-period, authenticated. The kind of piece that makes serious collectors breathe differently. She sat across from my desk with her coat still on, which was strange. It was late October, but the office was warm. She had the posture of someone trained to be watched, cheekbones you could file a legal document on, and eyes. Gray-green, the color of the Bosphorus in November, that looked at me with a very specific kind of attention. Not desire, assessment. "How did you find me?" I asked. "You came recommended," she said. "By someone who knows you well." I asked who. She smiled, and it was Daphne's smile, not similar. Identical, the half-second delay, the private translation. My stomach did something I couldn't name. "My husband," she said. "Emir Kaya." I knew Emir Kaya the way everyone in Istanbul's art world knew Emir Kaya. By reputation, by rumor, by the particular silence that fell over dinner tables when his name came up. He was 53. A property developer turned collector. The kind of man who bought beautiful things and kept them in rooms where no one could see them. He had galleries in Niantai and Bodrum, a Basquiat that was probably real, and a history of business partnerships that tended to end with one party significantly poorer and the other one across the Aegean. "I didn't know Emir Kaya had a wife," I said. "Most people don't," she said. "He prefers it that way." She laid the authentication papers on my desk. The duana was real. I could see that from across the table. But I wasn't looking at the painting. "Why are you selling it?" I asked. "Because I am leaving him," she said. Flat factual. The way you say it is raining, and he knows. "Not yet." She stood, buttoned her coat. Still on, I realized like she'd never intended to stay, and slid a card across my desk. "Just a phone number, no name. Call me when you've had it assessed," she said. "Don't take long. I don't have much time." She left, and I sat there for a full minute before I realized I hadn't breathed. I called Daphne that evening. We talked about nothing. The market, a crack in the garden wall, whether we should repaint the kitchen. She laughed at something I said. I held the phone and listened to her laugh and tried to find the man I'd been that morning. Before the woman with Daphne's smile had walked into my office. He wasn't there anymore. Part 3, the 4 meetings. I told myself I was being professional. Over the next 3 days, Lara Celine and I met 4 times. The gallery on Tomtom Street. A kaftafi kinsi shangir so small you had to turn sideways between the tables. The sale was straightforward. The duanai would move fast. I knew 3 buyers who'd clear 6 figures without blinking, but we kept extending the meetings, kept finding reasons to stay. She talked about Istanbul the way exiles talk about home, with longing and fury mixed together so completely you couldn't separate them. She'd grown up in Ankara, moved here at 22 for university, never left. She said the city had a way of getting into your blood whether you wanted it to or not. Like a husband, I said, without thinking. Or a marriage, she said. I didn't ask her what she meant. I was afraid the answer would apply to me too directly. What I felt for her was not simple. I want to be precise about this because the easy word is attraction and the easy word is wrong. It was recognition. The uncanny sense that she was fluent in something I'd been trying to say for years without finding the language. The way she got quiet before she made a decision. That was Daphne, yes, but it was also something in me, some frequency I had been broadcasting alone. On the 3rd night, we walked along the Bosphorus from Beşiktaş toward Ortaköy. The water was black and the bridges were lit, and somewhere across the strait, on the Asian side, my wife was asleep in a house that smelled like jasmine and old timber. Lara stopped walking. "You are not going to ask me anything about my marriage," she said. Not a question. I wasn't planning to. Why not? Because I am not sure. I want the answers. She turned to face me. The wind off the water moved her hair. For a moment she looked like something from a painting. Not a painting I had ever sold. Something older, something from a vault that had never been opened. "Karam," she said. "Amr knows about the painting." My blood went cold. I thought you hadn't told him. I didn't have to. She looked out at the water. "He knows everything I do. He always has. That is the marriage." Then why? Because selling the douane was never about the money. She faced me again, and her eyes were the color of the strait. That winter gray-green, deep and unclear. It was about seeing if you were who I was told you were. Who told you about me? She didn't answer. "Lara, who told you about me?" "Your wife," she said. Daphne. Part 4, the photograph. I stood very still. The ferries crossed the water. A couple walked past us laughing. Istanbul continued to exist, indifferently the way it always had. "Daphne sent you to me." "Daphne asked me to find you," she said. "There is a difference. She needed to know if you could be trusted." Trusted with what? Lara reached into her coat and handed me a phone. Not hers. The screen showed a photograph. I looked at it for a long time. It was Daphne, standing in a room I didn't recognize, with walls the color of old cream and a window that showed the Bosphorus from a high angle. The European side I could tell by the silhouette. She was holding a folder. Standing across from her was Emre Kaya. When was this taken? My voice was very even. I was proud of that. 6 weeks ago, Lara said. In his private office in Nianta TC Dori, she could have been there for anything. A consultation. Art acquisition. Look at her hand, Lara said. I looked at the photo again. Daphne's left hand was on the desk. No wedding ring. She always wore her ring. She'd worn it in the shower at the beach through 2 surgeries. She was superstitious about it, she said. Taking it off felt like opening a door she wasn't ready to open. The door was open. Part 5. The real story. I won't describe the next 20 minutes with any precision. There are certain kinds of pain that don't improve with detail. I walked. I sat on a bench above the water. I thought about 7 years. I thought about Saturday mornings in Huaninangle Key. I thought about the crack in the garden wall that we'd been meaning to fix since spring. Lara sat beside me and didn't touch me and didn't speak. And that was, I realized later, the most considerate thing anyone had done for me in a very long time. Eventually I said, "Why are you telling me this?" "Because Daphne asked me to." "That makes no sense." "It will," she said. "She needs you to know." and she needs you to help her." "Help her what?" Lara looked at me. "Get out." The story Lara told me over the next 2 hours was not the story I thought I was in. Daphne had not fallen in love with Kaya. Daphne had been investigating him. It started 18 months ago with a painter named Sinan Demir, a friend of hers from university, a genuine talent, the kind of artist who never quite broke through but whose work meant something to the people who found it. Sinan had approached Kaya about representation. Kaya had been interested. There were meetings, money exchanged. Then Sinan had discovered that Kaya's operation wasn't just collecting, it was laundering. Moving dirty money through art sales, using legitimate pieces as cover for transactions that needed to be invisible. When Sinan threatened to go to the Financial Crimes Authority, he died. Ruled an accident. A fall from his studio in Tarlabar 4 stories found in the morning. Daphne didn't believe it was an accident. She started documenting, carefully, slowly, in the way she did everything, with patience and a refusal to be impressed by difficulty. She built a profile of Kaya's operation over a year. 16 months of meetings she never told me about. A parallel life running alongside ours, quiet as water under a floor. The photograph Lara showed me was from one of those meetings. The ring was off because Kaya's people had checked her background, and she'd told them she was separated. "Cover she was protecting you," Lara said. "By lying to me, by keeping you outside of it. If you didn't know, you couldn't be used. You couldn't be threatened." I sat with that. "Where is she now?" I asked. Lara's face changed. Something went carefully neutral, the way faces do when the news requires preparation. 3 days ago, she said. Kaya found out she was documenting him. We don't know how. She was supposed to meet me in Karachi. She didn't come. The cold came back, different this time. Deeper, her phone, off, the house. Empty, her things are there. Keys are there. I stood up. Then who, I said, was I talking to on the phone 3 days ago? Part 6, the phone call. Lara stared at me. What phone call? Tuesday night. After you came to my office, I called Daphne. We talked for 8 minutes. She laughed at a joke I made. Karam, Lara said slowly, Daphne's phone has been offline since Monday. We sat in that silence for a long time. The city humming around us, the Bosphorus running its dark and ancient course. Simone had answered Daphne's phone. Simone who knew her laugh. Simone who knew me well enough to sound like nothing was wrong. Part 7. The body and the trail. The body in the Golden Horn was identified by morning as Yurt. That Arslan no relation to me. A mid-level operative in Kaya's network, 29 years old. Cause of death, drowning, probably assisted. He was found wearing a woman's coat. In the pocket, a single hotel keycard, the Para Palace, room 311, and on his wrist, faint, in blue ink, the way Daphne marked the painting she was considering, a number, her handwriting. Which meant she'd been close enough to touch him, which meant she was alive, which meant she'd left me a trail. The perfume on the body, her perfume, the one she'd worn since she was 22, the one she ordered from a small shop in the Grand Bazaar. That wasn't a coincidence. That was a signal to me. She knew how the body would be found. She knew I would hear about it. She knew I would recognize what it meant. 7 years of marriage, and she knew exactly how to find me without making a sound. I looked at Lara. She planned this, I said. The body, the perfume, the trail. Yes, Lara said. She is still in the city, yes. And Kaya, Lara's mouth went tight. He thinks she is dead. He had someone else go into the water that night. He thinks it is finished. So she has a window. Small one. When he figures out the body isn't her, how long? Days, maybe less. I pulled out my own phone, opened the call log, Tuesday night. 8 minutes, 12 seconds. I played the recording back in my head, every word, and then I heard it. The thing I'd missed, the thing that had been sitting in those 8 minutes like a key in an unfamiliar lock. She hadn't said goodnight, Karam. She'd said, "Good night, Para." 3. I had thought she was trailing off, getting tired. I had thought Para was just the beginning of perhaps. And 3 was something left unfinished. It wasn't. It was an address. It was a room number. It was my wife, standing somewhere I couldn't see, in danger I didn't understand, reaching through the phone with the only message she could hide in plain sound. Trusting me after 7 years of parallel silences and garden walls and Saturday mornings. Trusting me to be listening closely enough to hear her. Part 8. The hard drive. I was already moving when Lara caught my arm. "Karam, before you go," she paused. "There is something else I haven't told you." "Tell me in the car." No, she didn't let go. Now, I stopped. "I'm not just Emmer's wife," she said. "I was once, truly. For 2 years, before I understood what he was. Before Sinan died and I understood what I was living inside." Her hand on my arm was very still. "I've been building this case with Daphne. Not for a month, for 8 months. We've been working together. You and my wife. Yes, and you came to me now because the case is complete. Everything Kaya has done, the laundering, Sinan, 4 other deaths we can trace. It is documented. Daphne has the files. She has had them for 3 weeks. She was waiting for one last piece." "What piece?" Lara reached into her coat and placed a hard drive on the bench between us. "A witness," she said. "Me." I looked at the drive. I looked at Lara Masslan, Emmer Kaya's wife, my wife's partner, the woman who had walked into my office with someone else's painting and a stranger's smile and turned my entire life 90 degrees without warning. "Why me?" I asked. "Why involve me at all? You had everything." "Because we needed someone Kaya's people hadn't profiled, someone clean, someone who could move the drive out of the city to our contact at the prosecutor's office without being followed." She met my eyes. "And because Daphne wanted you to know. She said she'd been keeping you safe for 18 months and she was tired of it. She said you deserved to know who she was." My throat did something inconvenient. "Who she was," I repeated. "Her words," Lara said. "Not past tense," she meant. "Who she really is, the whole version." Part 9. Room 311. The Para Palace Hotel is one of the oldest in Istanbul. It opened in 1892, when the Orient Express still stopped here, when the city was called Constantinople, and everyone passing through was in the middle of a story they hadn't finished yet. Agatha Christie wrote in room 411, "The elevators are brass and slow. The hallways smell like history, not the romantic kind, the real kind, which smells like dust and old decisions." Room 311 is 1 floor below. I took the stairs. I knocked twice. Then once, the pattern she always used when she came home late and didn't want to startle me. A pause. "Then, from the other side of the door, you are late," she said, and despite everything, the body in the water, the ring missing from her hand, the 18 months of silence, the parallel life, the cold fear that had lived in my chest for the last 6 hours. Despite all of it, I laughed. "Traffic," I said. "You know how this city is." The door opened. She looked like herself, which was the most surprising thing. I don't know what I expected. Exhaustion, fear, some visible sign of a woman who had been living inside a criminal investigation for a year and a half, while also passing me the salt at dinner. But she just looked like Daphne. Dark eyes, quiet mouth, the slight tilt of her head that meant she was reading something in my face. "You figured out the phone call," she said. "Tuesday night, eventually." "I wasn't sure you would. I almost didn't." She stepped back to let me in. The room was sparse. A bed, a table covered in papers and a laptop, 2 cups of cold tea. She had been here long enough to make it functional. The window faced the Bosphorus. "How much did Lara tell you?" she asked. "Enough," she nodded. Then she looked at the hard drive in my hand. "She gave it to you." She did. She exhaled. A long, slow exhale, the kind that carries 18 months of compression inside it. "Karam, I need you to understand." "Ladder," I said. "We get the drive to the prosecutor. We get you out, then we talk. She studied my face for a moment. That quiet assessment before decision look that I had fallen in love with 7 years ago without ever fully understanding what I was falling in love with. You are not angry, she said. I am extremely angry, I said. I am also in a hotel room with you and a hard drive worth more than everything in our house. And Imre Kaya has probably figured out the body by now, so. Her mouth moved, the half-second delay. The private translation, she smiled. Part 10, the message. We were nearly to the stairwell when my phone buzzed. Unknown number. One message, room 311 is very convenient. I used to stay there myself. Give Daphne my regards. I showed her the screen. She read it. Her face went very still. He knows, I said. He is known for longer than we thought, she said quietly. That is what he wants us to believe. He is trying to make us run. Is it working? She took the phone from my hand, looked at the message, looked at me, and for a moment she was completely transparent. I could see all of it, the calculation and the fear and the exhaustion, and underneath all of it, something that had nothing to do with Kaya or the case or the last 18 months. Something that was just the two of us in a room, 7 years in. Not yet, she said. She put the phone in her pocket. She took my hand. We went down the stairs. They arrested Imre Kaya 11 days later. Laura testified from Rotterdam. Her voice on the video feed was steady and precise, and she spoke for 4 hours without stopping. The case ran for 2 years. It was eventually a victory, the kind that looks clean in the newspapers and messy in real life, which is the only kind that counts. Daphne went back to her work, new projects, different name. She doesn't tell me everything. I've stopped needing her to. The garden wall got fixed in March. The jasmine came in thick that spring, thicker than it ever had before. Or maybe I just noticed it more. We live in Istanbul. The Bosphorus runs between us and everything we used to be. It doesn't forget. Neither do we. Lara testified from Rotterdam. 4 hours, no breaks, no hesitation. The voice of a woman who had decided a long time ago that the truth was worth whatever it cost her. The case ran for 2 years. Kaya received 26 years. The man who answered Daphne's phone that Tuesday night, a low-level operative named Tarek, trained to mimic voices used once and discarded, received 8. He was the one who had laughed at my joke about the kitchen. I think about that sometimes. A stranger, sitting in a room somewhere in this city, laughing a laugh that wasn't his, at a joke told by a man he'd never meet, in a marriage he was paid to help destroy. Istanbul is full of that kind of strange, quiet cruelty. The body in the Golden Horn, yet, Arslan, 29 years old, Kaya's man who had gotten too close to Daphne's trail and paid for it, was given a full investigation, a conviction, a closed file. The perfume on his coat was never officially explained. I know what it meant. Daphne knows what it meant. That was enough. She asked me once, maybe a year after everything, whether I was angry that she hadn't told me. We were at the polite Fundy Angle Key Market Saturday morning, the way we always used to be. She asked it the way she asked everything. Quietly, directly, looking at me like she was reading something in my face. I thought about it for a real moment, not the polite kind. I was angry, I said, for about 3 days, and then I realized, I said, that you knew me well enough to know I'd come. That you trusted me to hear 2 words, para, 3, buried in 8 minutes of small talk, and find you. She was quiet. That is not nothing, I said. She looked at me. The half-second delay, the private translation. No, she said. It is not nothing. We still live in the Yali on the Asian side. The garden wall is fixed. The jasmine comes in every spring, thick and relentless, the way it always did. We go to the market on Saturday mornings. We have dinner together. Most nights now, not 4 nights a week. Most nights. She tells me more than she used to. I ask more than I used to. It is as she predicted that night outside the Para Palace, a harder marriage. Also a truer one. The Bosphorus runs between the two sides of this city, between Europe and Asia, between the life we had and the life we have now, between the man I was before a Tuesday afternoon, in late October, and the man I became after it. It carried a body to shore that morning, wearing my wife's perfume. It told me she was alive. It was right. It usually is.